All right, everybody, welcome back to the latest episode of the Life Less Perfect podcast. Today, I'm really happy and excited to introduce my new friend, local Calgarian. No, you are
I'm Italian. Well, sure.
Well, we won't hold that against you here in Calgary.
Thank you so much.
Michelle Bateman, local Albertan, I should say.
Yes, there we go. We've got that in common.
Yes, Michelle Bateman. Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited for you to tell your story. So, you are a confidence and clarity coach, and you are the founder of Soul Journey. Now, that really piques my interest because that speaks my language. I'm all about the journey of the soul here, as we're incarnated in this really what I think is an exciting time, if not a bit chaotic, to be alive.
The both and it
The
is
both
it is.
end, yes.
Yeah, it is chaotic and it is a journey. And some days I wonder, did I actually sign up for all of this in the journey? But apparently I did. So I have to lean into the acceptance of that and what is it here to teach us and help us grow into.
Yeah, we were chatting about that before we hit the record, how you actually checked all the boxes that you signed up for, like it or not.
Yeah, I know. Often I'm like, me and my higher self, we're going to chat this one out when I get up there. Are you sure? Are you sure? But we did. So we just have to embrace the journey. And I remember there was a time where I thought, we arrived, like we figured it out, we arrived, we've got it all, and life is happening. And then realizing that's not true at all. It's an ongoing journey of learning, growing, deepening, peeling back, and it's just that ongoing journey that we've signed up for in this lifetime. And so to let go of the idea of I'm going to reach that idea of perfection, or when I have the things, then I'll be happy. It's how do I find the happiness and joy in the midst of the chaos, the hurt, the loss, the grief, the betrayal, the joy, the fun, all of it, and walk a beautiful journey of all of that together.
Beautiful. So speaks into the whole premise of this podcast, as you know. So if you can, Michelle, maybe take us back a little bit, because in the podcast we like to talk about when life was maybe less perfect. It's always imperfect, of course, but sometimes they're more difficult than others. And you had alluded to a time when you had possibly thought about smothering an ex-husband with a pillow. I have to say I've been there myself, but he was a bad snorer. So I actually posted it on Facebook many, many moons ago, like, would it be wrong to smother your husband in his sleep? And the responses to that were hilarious. Anyway,
Oh, for sure. I say that all the
Yeah.
time, and they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to think that. And I make light of it, but it was a huge wake up call moment for me, because I used to be this happy, loving, outgoing person. And I was in my second marriage, and pretty much from the minute we said I do, well, if I go back, I probably shouldn't have, and I didn't have the courage to call it off. And so the fallout of all of that lasted for 8 years of living on different floors, not speaking to each other, and just trying my best to white knuckle it through this bullshit life that I felt I'd been handed, that I had no choice in, that I would never be happy again, and I just had to make it through. And so that moment was a huge catalyst of like, Michelle, what are you doing and who are you becoming in all of this? This isn't who you are, and you need to make some changes. And so I had the courage to leave, and I found my own place. And in that moment, simultaneously, I had a friend who was dying of ALS, my friend Rob, and he was fully paralyzed. The only thing he could do was blink at a computer screen. And he was happier dying than I was living my life.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, if he can figure out how to be happy dying, I should be able to figure this out. And so I started working with healers and reading books and podcasts and trying to figure out what I needed to do to change my life to be happy. And so all these divine things just happened to fall in place, where I landed the job of my dreams and the house of my dreams, and my kids and I moved out, and everything was great. Then I found the first healthy, loving relationship of my life. And I thought, I have it all. I have arrived. The journey is over. This is great. Now I want to share it with other women. And then that relationship fell apart, and it broke my heart.
Mm.
And so I went from thinking, okay, I'd never be happy again, to now I have it all, to now what the hell just happened. And so this journey of the up and down, of learning to ride the waves and figuring out what was that here to teach me, and how did it help me grow and become the woman I am today. So, just knowing that it's never perfect, we're never fully arrived, and just, from where I was 12 years ago when I left, to where I was 6 years ago when that relationship ended, to where I am now after my relationship with my fiance ended a year ago. And the learnings and the growth that have come from all of that has really helped deepen me and deepen my message and what it is that I'm here to share and empower women, because it isn't always perfect and rainbows and unicorns. And, what do we do when it gets real and hard and tough and we're hurting? How do we navigate and move through that?
Nice. So I'm curious, just because I'm a super astrology buff, how old were you when you left, or you had this aha moment around your first husband? I'm just curious.
My daughter would have been the summer of '01. So I would have been 31.
I knew it. So that's your first Saturn return. I don't know if you know about astrology, but
A
Saturn
little bit, yeah.
can be pretty nasty. I'm now in my second Saturn return, I'm not ashamed to say. And so certainly integrating the last 30 years now into my second Saturn return and making sure I don't repeat mistakes. So it's interesting. And I want to even take you back a little further, because I want to get into this, because it's my story too. So what weren't you listening to before you decided to get married to your husband? What was going on in your body, in your world? Like, how was the universe screaming at you back then? Or your soul, shall we say? How was your soul trying to speak to you?
Oh, okay. So just having an awareness right now of the parallels. It was an abusive relationship. I met him when I was 21. My only dream was to ever just be married and have kids and have the family and the memories and all the fairy tale things that Disney, so did us a dirty in all of that.
Oh yeah.
And so I just figured, you know what? He loves me. I love him. I loved his kids. He had two little girls that I adored and thought of as my own. So that was a whole nother layer of, leaving him meant leaving them.
Mm.
And I remember it was probably a couple weeks before our wedding, and it got physical. And I was sick. I was devastated. I went to work and they're like, whatever's going on, like, you need to go find some help. So I found a therapist that day. And basically, what she told me, and whether it was what I wanted to hear or it's what she actually said, but she's like, well, people can change. And that was enough for me to say, I should stay. He can change. I can fix him. We can make this work. And I walked down the aisle and I said I do. And it just got worse and worse after that. And, the reason I decided to have my second daughter is he went on medication and things were doing good. And I thought we were back on track. And so that happened. And then, yeah, and then it all fell apart. And I can't raise another child in this is awful, chaotic place, that this is not what love is. And I remember telling that to my daughters, like, I didn't want you to grow up thinking this was love. What I didn't realize is my oldest then later shared, she thought it was her fault because I left because of them. And so being very careful of around the words that we use around why. And I think so many of us won't leave for ourselves, but we'll leave for our kids, right? We'll give up things when we're pregnant that we wouldn't give up for ourselves without that. So, there's this part of us that is willing to do just about anything for our children that we aren't, necessarily willing to do that for ourselves. So I see now in hindsight, I needed someone else's validation to stay. And then I see where in my last relationship with my fiance, a lot of people were saying, Michelle, I think this is a you thing. And I was like, I don't think it is. But I believed them. And I tried to fix me when it wasn't a me problem.
Yeah. Oh, so much resonance there for me too. Again, my whole body was talking to me, and it was like, oh, well, I've already sent out the invitations. Like, what are you gonna do? And
Right.
we have this sort of societal programming, right? So the therapist told you, oh, people can change. And I just believed. I was 32 at the time, and it was like, I knew I wanted to have children. I knew I wanted to be married, much like you. And I thought, my clock is ticking, time is running out. If I'm going to do this, let's just dive in. Now, I, unlike you, stayed for 16 years and tried to make it work from every which way, always trying to change me, right? So, and it's two very committed adults working on themselves and working on the relationship to make a go of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you were into your next relationship then. You said you were married again.
So that was the one where I wanted to smother him with a pillow. That was the second
Right,
one.
right,
And
right.
I was like, how did I do this again? Like,
Yeah. So what
okay.
was different? Like, what was your learning? I mean, you're still very young, obviously, in your early 30s to be married and live
Nothing
married.
in my
Yeah,
30s. I thought I did.
yeah, yeah.
Not a
Don't we
thing.
all?
Yeah. 40s, I definitely felt like I've got a few things figured out now. I felt really good and confident in myself and life, and to keeping that wisdom now into my 50s. It's going to be my 55th birthday next week.
Nice.
Carrying that wisdom in has been such a blessing. And although there's been struggles to get there, I'm still grateful for who I've become in this journey and the impact that I've been able to have, and the wisdom I've been able to share with other people by just, honestly sharing my journey. And there was a time where when I was leaving my second marriage, I felt like I was a failure. Like, who gets divorced twice? Michelle, you are such a failure. And I was so embarrassed and humiliated. And I had a friend who said to me, he's like, Michelle, just because it ended doesn't mean it failed. And it was just like, oh, really? Like, I could just exhale and breathe into that wasn't my journey. And for some people, they have a journey that they're with their person forever. And sometimes I look at that and I'm a little jealous and envious and think, well, what did I do wrong that I didn't get that? But I wouldn't have learned all the things that I've learned, and I wouldn't be able to support the women that I do without the knowing and the understanding of walking through it. And I just learned about my human design, and my human design says I need to live it before I teach it. I was like, oh, really? That was not fair, but
So
it explains the journey.
yeah, what is your human design?
I am a manifesting generator. I'm a 6-2.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So I guess
So
I have
helpful,
to
all of
live it.
these different platforms that can help us learn and understand who we are, right? Because it really
Mhm.
helps along the way.
And it took
So
away some of that shame, right? Of like,
yeah.
what's wrong with me that I've had so many relationships, but the last two I'll say have been the most beautiful, loving experience that I've had. And I think some people can live their whole life and not experience a love like I've had
Yeah.
with the last two relationships. So been a blessing. And, there's also the grief that it didn't last, but it brought so many wonderful things to my life.
Yeah, and there really are so many projections on us, whether it's societal or from religious upbringings. I don't know what your background is growing up, but
I was
certainly.
raised Catholic.
So there's the programming, we get married once, we get married in the church, and if you can't make this work, you are a failure. So that was me too. That was why I stayed so long. I was only going to do this once. And I came from, my father was abusive and my mother was a single mom. And so I just swore to myself that I wouldn't do that to my kids, and then further realizing, well, when we stay in relationships where we're not seen and heard or valued, and there's just no reciprocity and it's just not working. I mean, what we're teaching our daughters is to not value their own selves in relationship, right? I think that's such a huge lesson for so many women because we've just been told for so long, you have to do what's right, you have to do what's best for your kids, and you have to do what society thinks you should be doing without listening, like you mentioned, to our own internal voices, which oftentimes are screaming, right? I mean, for me, it took me to finally become physically ill in my body before I finally was able to gather the courage to leave.
And those
So,
wake up calls, that scream gets louder and louder and louder. And I have seen people, fall, break things, car accidents, like you name it, it will get your attention one way or the other. So, like, when it whispers, I'm like, I'm on it. I'm listening. You don't have to hit me in the head with the 2x4 anymore.
exactly. So I'm curious then, Michelle. So how does it work for you and your client? Is there a certain client that you work with, or do you have an offering or a program that you're working with specifically, or how does it work?
Yeah, it was an interesting evolution of my business. So first, just, wanting to share my own journey with other women so they didn't feel stuck and lost and alone and trapped in a situation, feeling like they had no control over their lives. And when I began to change what I said, what I thought, what I believed, what I spoke, everything in my life began to change, and realizing that I had the ability to create the life that I love. And I wasn't a victim to my circumstances. That was huge. And so that's how I started working with women. And then it just naturally evolved into these women either had a business or wanted to have a business and share their journey, but they were too afraid to show up. They were playing small, they were hiding, they felt confused and overwhelmed, and they just actually weren't doing the thing. And so I took everything that I learned in learning to start my business. That was the first thing I did when I made the decision to start Soul Journey. Was I was terrified. I wanted to puke and all the things as a single mom with a mortgage. But taking that leap of faith, I was like, okay, I need someone to teach me how to do this and make it successful because it needs to work now. And so investing in that coach was so valuable to me. And I could tell who had a coach and who didn't in their business by the way they communicated and shared what they did. So I took everything that I learned from my coach, plus I had a marketing and graphic design background, and started helping them get clear on their business and how to launch it. And so for a while, it was separate. It was like the business coaching was over here, and then the mindset, personal coaching was over here. But over here in the business, we all needed the mindset, the personal stuff, because our own barriers and fears and doubts were getting in the way. And so realizing, no, that they actually go together. And so through, helping women that have businesses, soulpreneurs, entrepreneurs that are here to share their passion and their gifts, what are the personal things that we need to work through? And then how do we get the clarity around that so that you can put it out to the world, that you feel clear and confident now, knowing what you do and how to say it and how to share it and how to offer it. So that was kind of the evolution of what I do. So I do the personal coaching, I do the business coaching, and that's evolved into helping them create a brand that is in alignment with their essence, and everything in their business needs to be in alignment with who they are, the authenticity about it, the vulnerability, the essence of it, all bringing it together so that it's congruent and it feels resonant with people.
Beautiful. One thing that I'm super passionate about is, and I don't know if there's a particular age or subset or group that comes towards you as women, what period of time in their life? Like, are they younger women, or are they midlife, or where are they?
I have had some youngers, but I would say between like 30 and 60-ish would probably be the women that I work with. And I do have some men that come to work with me too. I was like, well, it's going to be pink. That's my branding. I'm not changing it. So if you're good with that, we're good to go. Because the content and the clarity and the questions and the process that I take them through is very similar. It's the same. But, just there's something special about women being in circle and community, but then there's also something valuable about having the masculine presence as well. So there's a bit of both. And that's a good point around, when people say, I don't want a niche and I don't want to have an avatar and I don't want to be too restricted because then I'm leaving all these other people out. Well, you're not, because if they resonate with your message, they're going to come anyway, even though they're outside of that little circle. So I do have some men that work with me, and that's okay.
Yeah. So true. It is really about resonance. And I'm excited to be speaking to in my own age group, and you're going to be double nickels here pretty soon. So welcome to that club. That was a good last 5 years for me. But I'm really excited about this sort of group of women between 50 and 70, because as I mentioned in a post the other day, it's a time for us now where we're done with the child raising usually, and our kids are older and more self-sufficient, and we can start to focus on self, right? We can really start to focus on, well, what have I learned? Like, maybe we write memoirs, or maybe we're retiring from the grind culture and now we're able to sort of move into passion and purpose, right? What do we want to offer to the world? I call it medicine. What medicine are we bringing into the world? So I love that you're really doing this work, and I feel such resonance and alignment there, because I think women in particular between 50 to 70 used to be called the crone years, and I don't feel anything like a crone. It's such a horrible name.
It's a horrible name, but
Yeah,
it comes with, like, if you understand the
the goddess
archetype of the
archetype.
crone,
Yeah,
it's actually like a really beautiful rite of passage. But yeah,
yeah.
maybe it needs a rebrand
Well,
version.
now there is this new archetype that has been introduced. And so the crone years are more now like 70 plus, where we kind of sit in wisdom and we just allow life, to happen around us, and we spend time with our families and our grandchildren or whatever, but they're terming this time now between 50 and 70 as the magi or the magician years, right? So this is wisdom, right? These are wise women that have medicine to share. So
Mm.
I think it's a really important time for us, especially in this epoch where we're at sort of in the world, because I think as the chaos is happening around us, where these old sort of control top down, more patriarchal systems are starting to crumble, what is needing to rise now is leadership in women, feminine leadership, right? Feminine energy, again, like you were talking about, tuning into that inner wisdom, that heart space with compassion, and not being afraid either, not being afraid to use our voices, to have boundaries, to not be afraid to speak up and speak out. And I think it's just a really exciting time for women now. So can you maybe speak into that a little bit and how you work with women and help
Absolutely.
with
I
that?
was just at a retreat this weekend, and that was the exercise I took the group through, is really, what does no feel like in your body and what does a yes feel like in your body? Because we're so disconnected from our own bodies, from nature, from our knowing, all of the things. So coming back into, okay, so if you think of something that is a hard no in your world, where do you feel that in your body, so that when I'm faced with a decision, I know what my no feels like and I know what my yes feels like. And then thinking about, like, what's something you're super excited to do? There's that lightness, there's that open, there's that I want to move forward towards something. And our no is usually like a moving away from. So when we can connect to what that feels like in our body, we can begin to make decisions from an aligned internal space, instead of, sometimes in our head. And sometimes our fear shows up as a no. So we have to look at, is that fear, or is that resistance of what my body's just saying, this is not in alignment? And where I really start working with my clients is, who are you? Because if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you stand for, then you fall for everything. And so, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe? What do I need? What do I value? And when I know all of those things, then I can use those as markers for making decisions in my life. And I am really crystal clear on those things, of what is a yes and what is a no. If it is not in alignment, it is a no. I'm out. And I realize I don't have to explain that to anybody. I don't have to get anybody to validate or understand it. It is my knowing for me, and yours is for you. And if everybody else is like, I don't think so, and you're like, I think so, it doesn't matter. It's your knowing. And so just be able to stand confidently behind that, once you have clarity around, who am I and what do I stand for, then it's easier to make those decisions. And then we went through an exercise of speaking your yes and speaking your no. And so everybody had to go around the room and just yelling their yeses and yelling their nos, and really like feeling it in their body, and then being able to look at another and say yes and say no. And the interesting thing was, after we did that exercise, a couple of ladies came up to me and said, you know what, right after that, I was presented with an opportunity where I had to use my voice and speak my no. And I was like, I love that, how they got tested right away, of like, okay, so here's your opportunity. When the rubber hits the road, you get to practice. Are you going to actually step into that? And they did. And it was so powerful to watch. And just the liberating feeling of like, I can actually speak my truth. And one of the things I learned in my relationship with my fiance is there was all of this resentful behavior that started to show up that had never been present before. He was always super loving and respectful and honoring and all the things. And I couldn't figure out, like, what is your deal? Why are you being like this? What I realized after the fact is, he'd been people pleasing for a long time, and he hadn't been speaking his own truth. And so that resentment was building and building and building, and it was coming out in this protest behavior and this resentment and all of the things that I didn't understand. And so what I really want people to understand is, our truth sits in the field between us energetically, whether you speak it or not. And when you don't speak it, the other person is left confused, going, I'm feeling and sensing something's off, but your words and your actions aren't matching. And now I'm really confused. And so I never ever wanted him to compromise his truth, his voice, his anything, but I didn't know. And so the people that really love you don't want you to compromise your truth. They might be disappointed and a little uncomfortable with your truth, but that's for them to sit with and own and reflect and move through their own experience. And when we try to save people from that, we actually harm the relationship more than we help it.
Couldn't agree more. Wow, so much is moving through me as you were talking about that. Because I think that, not just as women, but as human beings, all of us at some point in our childhood, in our growing up, in our life, get this wounding that we're not worthy. And that's sort of the core human wound that I see in people. And however that acts out, whether it's people pleasing, for me, it was relationships that tended to be with self-serving personality, shall we say, and who better to reflect my own lack of self-worth than someone who really just was out for themselves, you know what I mean? And I can see the value in those relationships equally now too, just as you said. I mean, I've moved through it, I've processed it, and I've integrated it into understanding, well, they really taught me about self-value and self-worth and made me go into my own shadow and do the work and dig it up and like, why am I attracting these types of people into my life, you know? And so it is, like you said, so valuable to do the self-reflection, to dig up all of the stuff that is being mirrored back to us by partners, right? That's how we evolve and grow, is through relationships. So I say kudos to you, having been through a couple marriages and relationships and now another, I think you said engagement. I mean, you've got some serious wisdom to offer, right? And not that you can't do that in one relationship. Certainly people can evolve and grow together, but you've obviously mined a lot of gold over the years. So, so amazing that you're offering this now.
Thank you. And can I
So,
share? I just had
yeah,
an aha as we were saying this. So the last couple days of like moving into more acceptance and letting the hurt go, and how do I move forward from this? And I was listening to something around soul contracts, and then as soon as I opened my YouTube, it was like, here's some information about your soul contracts. And as you were speaking and as I shared, I was like, you know what? I actually need to have more gratitude for what he taught me, because it's literally all of my teachings right now.
yeah.
And so instead of holding on to the hurt, I'm going to move into more gratitude of thank you for teaching me these things that I need to now share with the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the feminine aspect that needs to happen in the world right now too, right? So we can move out of this collective energy of competition and, more collaboration and just helping understand each other as we know ourselves. It helps others understand themselves, right? And when we share our stories and we share our medicine, it just creates more compassion and understanding in the world. And a part of that work for me too, moving through, was my own self-abandonment, right? So such a massive one, right? Like how many times am I gonna keep abandoning myself in these relationships, whether they're working relationships, even friendships? I've had to recently let go of a friendship where there was no reciprocity, and I felt disregarded and taken advantage of. And, I was kind of hanging on to that one, but the more you do this work, the more, like you said, you just can't, your no becomes really clear. And I made a post you probably saw recently about leaving a position. It was the same thing. I had been feeling sort of undervalued in that position and not seen or heard for quite some time. And then all it took finally was an email to come across my desk with a new contract, a subcontractor thing to sign. And the minute I saw it, it was just like immediately, it was like, no, I am out, and I have to say that I sat on it for a night and a day before I sent the email in because, I'm like you, I'm a single mother. I mean, my girls are older, but they're in, post-secondary and I'm still supporting them, right? So it's not cheap out there in the world. So to let go of
No,
the income, in between clients, as you know, as an solopreneur, we aren't always
yeah,
guaranteed clients. And so to release income, that was kind of guaranteed with no ground under my feet, but other than I was just going to stand into my value, stand into my integrity and say, no, this is no longer in alignment. And I'll tell you immediately what happened was more clients, less work, more money. It's like, oh my God,
imagine that. I
imagine
love that.
that, right? Yeah. So it's so amazing, like you said. So,
And I think I posted right after you posted a post of like, I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm not available for half-ass relationship, breadcrumbing, like all of it. I am so freaking done. Like if you can't meet me, and
Yeah.
I get that there's ebbs and flows in friendships where, life gets busy and stuff, but there's a difference and you can
Yeah.
feel the difference between someone who's just, you can come back and it's always going to be that reconnection, or the ones that you're like, I'm done with this. I like unfriended some people. I cleaned out my life. I deleted a whole bunch of text messages because I am just freaking over settling for sort of, kind of, not enough. Maybe it's good enough. Like all the things. I'm just done.
The breadcrumbing is a huge one.
Yep. In
Like that.
friendships, in
Yeah.
relationships, in business, like all of
Yeah.
it. I'm not available for that
Yeah.
anymore.
Because we know what we bring to those relationships, right? We bring our whole selves, we bring our attention, we bring our time, we bring our energy. I mean, I don't know about you, but at this age, like when I'm going to expend energy somewhere, it's going to damn well be worth it. It's not going to be, just take anymore for me. So, yeah, so that's a huge lesson, I feel like, too. And we feel more empowered to do that, I think, the older we become. I
Yeah,
certainly
you've
wasn't
just
able to.
tolerated so much for so long. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
full. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. The bullshit line stops right about there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So tell me more about your journey now and where you're at, Michelle. What's going on for you? What are you excited about right now in your life and maybe in your business?
Mm. I'm just really excited about this new deepening in myself, in what I'm sharing, what I'm talking about. And I've got some more retreats coming up over the summer and some stages that I'm going to be speaking on. I'm actually going to be in Calgary September 13th for Fearless Women Calgary event. So maybe I'll get to
Oh,
meet
that
you.
that
Yeah.
looks really great. I think I should come. It looks like just a great networking opportunity.
Yeah, and I think they
Yeah.
said they had 200 women last time they did it. So
Wow.
huge. And they've got a 2-for-1 ticket thing on right now. So it's like $30 for the day to come hear a bunch of amazing women that I get to share the stage with and just, walk away feeling more connected. Community is so, so, so important. And
Mhm.
when we work at home alone and we're doing our thing, when we can surround ourselves with women that remind us of our light, that can see the beauty and the gifts in us, and we can see it in them, and we can see possibilities, we can just rise so much higher. And so all the women I talk to, it's just like, I need community, I need to be around
Yeah.
people, I need to do those things. So I love doing that. And I've actually started, if you're in the Edmonton area, called Empowered Women's Circles. And so I'm doing it at a place called Brew and Bloom, and it's a beautiful floral restaurant. So they have 2 locations, and they have a private party room that's all floral and gorgeous. And so we just get together and we talk about things, and we share, and we meet, and we mingle. And it's just a beautiful space to feel nurtured and empowered, and to find those connections and collaborations with other like-minded women. So it's just about bringing people together to feel supported, to feel empowered in the different things that I get to do, and the different ways I get to do it is what I love. And in person is always super awesome.
Way better. I'm a projector type in my human design, and so I'm more of an introvert, but I would say I'm an extroverted introvert. I do love to get out and be in community, and I miss that. So, I feel like it hasn't even fully recovered for me since COVID. And I mean, it's out there, obviously it's available, but I love that you're creating those spaces, and that's what I'm trying to do. Most of it will be in my women's wellness group, will be online, but then just I see it as sort of like satellite groups, right, where we're connecting people, whether it's through the podcast or the online platform, to other women and other communities where you can kind of find your tribe. Love that.
Absolutely. And I think both are valuable because you can
Yeah.
reach people all over. Whereas just, local, you're constricted that way. So I do have online things that I do as well. My business academy is online. All my coaching is done online. So, wherever you are, you
Mhm.
can access that. But I do like to bring people together for that human. I'm a hugger. We love hugs, and just, being in each other's energy is so much fun. And we do different themes for the event. So we did summer solstice last time. August, we're going to do a summer garden party on August 19th, I believe. So,
Nice.
bring out your little crowns or hats or fun summer dresses, whatever you want to do, and we'll just make it fun.
That sounds amazing. We'll have to maybe get you to come organize something down in Calgary for some of our ladies here.
Well, I'm going to be down there, so let's
In
talk
September,
and
yeah, maybe
we'll
we need
plan
to put
something.
our heads together because that sounds right up my alley and super fun. And when did you say that that event was in Calgary in September?
September 13th.
September 13th. We'll
Hmm?
link all of your events and places you're going to be and all of your offerings, of course.
Yes,
And
it's always
Michelle
on my
and
website and on
I.
my social media. So connected there. I share vulnerably a lot of, just what I'm moving through in my own journey. And it just seems like the collective's moving through it at the same time. And, I just read some of your posts and I was like, I feel like we're moving through some of the same things at the same time. I think we should talk.
Totally. And I just love anyone who's out there supporting women right now. Because like I said, I just think that it's really time. I mean, we've been letting the men kind of do things for a couple millennia now. Maybe it's time the women, and not, to take over or to be competitive with, but to rise into leadership and to
And to
act
rise together.
together. Yes. And not like against men, but,
Oh,
bring them together too, because it's just the world is designed to where we've just been up in the mind space for so long, and just helping women and men move into the body, move back into that intuition, start trusting the body and all of those things like we were talking about, right? So
yeah, I find that dating that men are not in their hearts and their bodies. That's been a
they might
challenge.
be in one part of their body, but that's about it.
And I think
Yes.
they have the capacity for it.
Mm,
It's just a really scary, shut down, not allowed parts of themselves. And I feel
mm,
really sad for them to have been raised where I was the super emotional kid that cried all the time. And I felt everything so big. And I got in trouble for that all the time. And then I tried to raise a highly emotional child without the awareness that I have now. And I can see, where I didn't support her and where I didn't have the support, that I felt too much and not enough all at the same time. And so if I had been told you can't cry, like I would have failed epically. There's no way I would have been able to survive. So I really have so much empathy for men of what it's taken since the time they were little to disconnect and shut all of that down, because I do think they're really big hearted, big feeling carrying men that have just been told for so long it's bad and wrong,
mm.
and to not access that part of themselves. And they've locked it up so tightly, they don't even know where to go or how to find the key to open the door to even begin to reconnect to that part of themselves. And that's why they need to be in community and brotherhood with other men to feel safe to be able to open that part of themselves as well.
Amen, sister. And beyond that, I think it's like women have been also now moving more into the masculine, right? So when, the women's liberation and all, it's like, oh, you can do everything, you can have everything, you can be everything. So you can work and raise kids and look after your parents and all of this crap. And I mean, and so now we're sick and we're out of energy, and it doesn't work with our bodies, our physicality. It just doesn't work for women the same way. And then we have to wonder why we have all of this confusion in our young people around identity and sexual identity. And like, because we've just reversed roles almost, there's this weird lack of polarity almost, it seems, right? So it's just such a wild time. And yeah, we all just need to return back into being grounded, into being present, into the body, into feeling. I mean, that's really why we're all here. Eckhart Tolle said it best. I love that book of his, A New Earth. It's your soul purpose here. Your soul purpose with a U is to live in the present moment and to sit with and in whatever that present moment is offering you, right? And whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, and told our brothers and sisters. So here's to a glimpse into the future, maybe someday that might happen.
I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think it's a haul. It's not overnight, but as we were talking about, as we do this work ourselves, right? I mean, some of us are here to do this work. We were talking about that earlier. Some of us signed up for this, right? To do the work. And it's not just for us, right? It's backwards and forward. We're here to help. We're here to help break these cycles and help usher in the new. So these are the beautiful women that I love connecting with, such as yourself. And I love what you're doing in the world. So keep doing it. And,
Thank you.
I think we should come back and maybe do a whole podcast about dating in your 50s. Oh,
Yeah,
how
that
about
part I'm
you?
still a little mad about. I definitely have a lot of anger around. This was not anywhere I wanted to be at this age of my life in trying to entertain and figure this out. I've decided online dating is not a platform for me. Sweet Jesus.
Oh, please, God, I have just deleted all apps, never going back there again. I've decided the next person is going to be met organically through resonance
Yeah.
and no other way.
Yeah, the universe will bring him to me in some way, but it will not be through a swiping of anything. And my last two partners were very divinely inspired of, so many things falling into place for us to meet in such beautiful, unique ways. And I'll tell you the stories of those one day because they're freaking wild. So I'm just trusting that that will happen again.
Yeah. And not to say that, the online can't work for some people,
For
certainly.
sure.
And
But
and
when you are someone who is as deep in the work as I am, as you are, we're not looking for the average dude on there. Some of them are like, I'm just an average guy looking for an average girl. I'm like, I am absolutely not an average girl looking. Like, I've got a list. It's this long.
so one guy said, I haven't changed at all since I was 18. And I'm like, okay. Like,
I
and he seemed quite proud of it.
Okay,
Oh,
I know my mom one time, she's like, you've changed. I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
it is
That's the
right.
whole goal of this. So thank you for noticing. I know that you don't love that I've changed.
Yeah.
That's the part that we're meant to evolve and grow. And it's almost like, looking for that elite athlete, the one that's like in the NBA or the NHL, like the Stanley Cup playoff level players. That's who I'm looking for. And
Hmm.
everyone else down here is fine. And there's other people that are looking for that, but I'm looking for
Yeah.
like the 3%.
Yeah. I would say, and so that's what happens, right? The more we do this work, the more shallow the pool becomes in the dating.
He's out there somewhere. There is a pool of them. They
Yeah.
are.
And you know what? I've decided that, I'm not attached to that happening. If it happens, great. I mean, I'm happy with my life. I'm passionate about my work. I have great friends, great family, and if that comes along, that'll be the icing that's already the cake that is my life. Yeah.
Right, but we're not willing to trade our peace, our
No,
joy, our worthiness, any of that for
no,
that. We can't.
no more self-abandonment, ladies.
Yes, that was one of the hardest lessons my coach, Mark Groves,
Mm,
was like, Michelle, where did you know and where did you ignore it? Where did you abandon yourself, your boundaries, your needs, your everything? And I wanted to throw up. And I was like, oh my God, I did that. That is mine to own. There's lots to be mad at him for, but that was mine. And to stomach that, whew, that was a big one to swallow.
it is a tough one when we have to turn that mirror around and look at ourselves and say, wow, yeah. He didn't abandon me. I was abandoning myself. Every time we don't listen, right? Every time we don't listen to the whispers, we're self-abandoning.
Yeah.
Important, important work. Well, Michelle, I know we could probably just talk forever, but I
Yep.
want to respect your time and our listeners' time. So, as mentioned, we'll put all your information in the show notes, but if you want to just mention where people can find you quickly.
Yeah, my website's souljourney.co, and you can find me. I'm mostly on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram. So you can connect with me there, Michelle Bateman. Yeah, and I'd love to connect, and you can follow me and follow my journey.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks again, Michelle, for being with us today and sharing your beautiful story so vulnerably. So we will connect again. Like I said, I think an episode around online dating in your 50s would be really fun and interesting. We could get a panel.
Yeah, yeah. You might need to bleep out a bunch of things in that one.
Awesome. All right,
Let's,
Michelle. Stay very well.
thank you.